Okay, good evening, everybody. Mr. Pizzo, you want to explain that we ran a little over with our executive session meeting there?
Certainly. Apologies to everyone for our late start. Council met in executive session immediately before this evening's meeting for approximately 30 minutes. Present for the executive session were members of council, the mayor, the township engineer, and me. A matter of pending litigation was discussed during the executive session. No official action was taken during the executive session. Some official action may occur this evening as a result of that executive session as we move through the agenda.
Okay. We'll open up the meeting with a moment of silent meditation and prayer, and then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first thing on the agenda is public comment on agenda items, and we'll have an opportunity as agenda items come up. So seeing no one come up, we'll public comment at the end also. Number 3 on the agenda is approval of council minutes for the meeting date November 14, 2022. I didn't see any changes. Is there anybody that has any changes to the council minutes from November 14th?
Make a motion, we approve as presented.
I'll
Okay.
second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, they're approved. Okay, Mr. Pizzo, before we go much further, is there any changes to the actual agenda this evening?
There is, Mr. Knowles, item number 6 on this evening's agenda, which is preliminary and final, I'm sorry? Yeah, and 7. Items 6 and 7 this evening. Preliminary and final subdivision application of Gibson Holdings LLC for property located at 1515 Gibson Road. We received correspondence from the attorney for the applicant requesting that the matter be taken off of this evening's agenda and ask that it be tabled to the council meeting of Monday, December 12. The applicant has granted the township the necessary extensions of time under the municipality's planning code for the consideration of the application. Item 7 is if you were inclined to approve the preliminary and final subdivision. At such time as you would do that, it would also require an Act 537 resolution approval for an amendment of the township's sewage facilities plan. So since you're not going to be entertaining the application for land development this evening, motion would be in order to table both items 6 and 7 to a date certain of Monday, December 12th.
I will put that in the form of a motion.
Okay, so we have a motion to move 6 and 7 to a date certain of December 12th.
Second.
Second, Mr. Polari, all in favor? Aye. Any against? Okay, so 6 and 7 are moved. Okay, number 4 on the agenda is consideration of an ordinance amending Chapter 232 zoning, Article 11, Industrial Districts, Division 2, General Industrial Districts, Sections 542, Regulations, Subsection 11, and add Section 601, Tobacco Shops and Smoke Shops. Can you explain this, Mr. Pizzo, what we're trying to do anyway?
Certainly. The township has been receiving a number of inquiries, complaints, concerns regarding the proliferation of tobacco shops within the community, particularly on the west side of Street Road, or the south side, depending on which way you're looking, between Street Road and our border with Philadelphia. In addition, what we're seeing is that a good number of these establishments are beginning to congregate, if you will, in close proximity to one another, again, raising concerns within the community for the health, safety, and welfare of our citizens. So what, this evening, what's before you is an ordinance that would amend the township zoning ordinance to create a specific definition for tobacco shops and smoke shops. They would be establishments whose primary and principal product offered for sale is tobacco, smokeless tobacco, tobacco products, vape pens, vape refills, smoking products, etc. This would be distinguished from convenience stores where only a small portion of the store is devoted to the sale of tobacco products. These would be shops that are the primary or principal product are what I just described. In this case, following the similar guidelines that we have in the community already for facilities that are involved in the sale of alcohol, we've come up with locational restrictions for such facilities, and also created a need for such facilities to now come in front of the township for approval as a conditional use, or, I'm sorry, in this case, to the zoning hearing board as a special exception. So the ordinance is been properly advertised in the Bucks County Courier-Times. It's been duly advertised in the Bucks County Law Library. It's been reviewed by the Township Planning Commission and by the Bucks County Planning Commission, and it is in a form acceptable for your consideration and approval this evening.
May I add something to that, if I may? I think this ordinance is even more restrictive than you had just described it, in that we are now limiting to a general industrial districts, as well as you had described also with the certain specifications also,
That's correct, sir.
as far as distance from other stores that are providing tobacco, smokeless tobacco, vape pens, vape fills, and similar products. So there's a distance restrictions of it has to be at least 1,000 feet from a principal store in that respect. But the big thing is it's going to be restricted to general industrial. I think it's a major part of it.
And again, we have those sorts of distance requirements for establishments that sell adult entertainment, adult items, for facilities that are engaged in the sale of medical marijuana. And so this would be in keeping with those.
I'd also like to add, in addition to Street Road, I've had quite a few complaints about Bristol Pike also having a proliferation of these type of businesses. I think all
Yeah,
throughout,
from Woodhaven down to
throughout the
City Line,
entire
yep.
Bensalem area, of course.
Mr. Pizzo, would vape stores be covered in this also? Since that's not like another form and it's doing harm to children and youth that are getting hold of these, and adults too. Is that included in the tobacco thing, or is that something we should put into it?
No, it's in the definition.
It's in it,
Mr.
okay.
Clary,
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, he mentioned vapes, and I thought prior to that, I was thinking the same thing, Joe. I didn't see it. Okay, so hopefully this is something that we'll be able to, it'll help. We'll get these under control a little bit. Okay, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Pizzo in reference to the ordinance?
No, just glad we're doing it.
Joe, should we does the public have to speak?
Yes,
Speak, yeah.
yeah, it's an ordinance.
Okay, it's an
Public
ordinance, so does anybody want to speak for or against this ordinance as presented? That's clear. Okay, seeing no one come forward, we'll close public comment. Okay, is there a motion to approve?
I'll put in form of a motion, Mr. President, that we accept this as presented to us, which is agenda item number 4, that we create an ordinance, which is be the Pennsylvania amending charter of 232 zoning articles 11, industrial district division 2, general industrial districts, Section 542, useful regulations, subsection 11, and to add section 601, tobacco shops, smoke shops. We pass that ordinance as presented to us this evening.
I'll second the motion.
Okay.
Including me, by the way.
First and a second on the motion, all in favor? Aye. Any against? Okay, so that passes, so get some help. Okay, number 5 on the agenda is the consideration of public hearing ordinance amending the Township Zoning Part 2, Chapter 232 of the Township Code to amend Article 5 Residential District to create a new division, R55A Riverfront Revitalization District. Mr. Pizzo, did we have something we're going to do with this?
Yes, sir. So for everyone, by way of background, back in September, Council adopted Township Ordinance 22-06, which was a text amendment to the Township's R55 zoning ordinance. During the consideration and the public hearing on the ordinance, which stretched over 2 meetings, there was considerable input from the owners and tenants of various businesses located within the R55 district who had concerns regarding the effect that various aspects of that text amendment might have on their business operations. The township, the mayor in particular, met with many of the business owners, heard their input, and it was proposed at the September meeting when Ordinance 22-06 was adopted that the township would take steps to adopt the ordinance that is in front of you for consideration this evening, which creates a new zoning district, R55A. The goal of R55A is to, for lack of a better way of saying it, reverse the text amendment that was made to R55 as it pertained to certain businesses that are located within the R55A district, namely those that are north of Street Road, those that bordered on Samuel Drive, a number of which are south of Imperial Drive. And in the intervening period of time, the township has been served with a land use appeal that was brought by a number of the business owners in the area challenging Ordinance 22-06. It's both a substantive challenge to the text of the ordinance itself, as well as a procedural challenge to the various aspects of how the ordinance was adopted. That was presented, the lawsuit was presented to council at the executive session that preceded last week's meeting, the prior meeting, and since then there have been discussions with council representing the businesses involved in that suit. The mayor has had discussions with some of the businesses down there themselves. I believe some have reached out to members of council. And so this evening's executive session was to discuss both how the township is going to proceed with the R55 ordinance as well as with the litigation. It's the recommendation of the administration this evening that the council table the R55A ordinance that's before you this evening, and to do so in connection with proceeding with a repeal of Ordinance 2206. So the recommendation to the township is that the ordinance that was adopted in September that created the text amendment that started the litigation and started the flurry of activity that necessitated the creation of R55A, that we now repeal that ordinance and essentially go back to the drawing board. There's one of 2 ways that can be accomplished. I don't know if it's something that we'll be able to accomplish through through the litigation. I haven't yet discussed this idea with opposing counsel, in as much as we're just now moving forward with it this evening. If we can dispose of it and accomplish a repeal, assuming that council votes to repeal this evening, then, or to authorize the appeal, obviously, then we'll try and effectuate it either through the lawsuit, or if not, then we'll start the process tomorrow of advertising an ordinance that would repeal Ordinance 2206. That, because as any zoning ordinance does, has to go back through the process of public review by the Planning Commission. So it would be a little bit of time before it would come back to you. But one way or another, either in the span of the next 60 days, either through the courts or by bringing it back to you, it's the recommendation of the administration that we repeal Ordinance 2206, that we refrain from adopting R55A because it will become a nullity, assuming that 2206 is in fact repealed within the next 60 days.
Okay, so just for this evening, if we, just to clarify, if we table number 5 or 55A, okay, do we have to then authorize you to start the appeal of 22-06? Or
Yes.
we'll just go ahead and do that?
Yes, just,
Okay, so, and we'll just table it, period, right? We don't have to table it to anything, it's just tabled it.
we'll just,
Done,
we'll table it.
to affinity.
Well, what we should do is, since it's been duly advertised, what I'd recommend is, let's table it for 90 days.
Okay,
That will give us enough time to, one way or another, get 2206 appealed. Once 2206 is repealed, then there's no need to do anything with R55A, and it can just die a natural death.
okay, so if someone made a motion to table number 5 of 55A for a period of 90 days, and then authorize the repeal process of 2206 beginning tomorrow, that would be a proper motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
So moved.
so moved. Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
I want to make a comment
Okay,
first.
okay.
I'd like to thank the administration for taking this seriously, looking at and coming back and doing this. I think it's the right thing to do for the business people down there. And I think this is something that we needed to have.
Yeah, we're trying our best to work with people. Okay, so, all in favor?
Too, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Joe. I'm
I
sorry.
think the
I should
council
ask for
had
comment.
an intricate part of this decision also. I would add that as a,
It's your decision.
exactly,
Yeah, right.
exactly. So it's
I can't
working
vote
together.
for you.
So we're working together. on
Okay,
it.
is there any other comments from council? You
No,
okay?
I agreed with everybody on board. I'm good.
Yeah, we talked about this for some length of time. Okay, so there's a so moved and a second, right? Someone seconded, right? Okay, is there all in favor of the table and the repeal process beginning for 2206? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any against? Okay, so that's done. Okay, and then,
So for anyone, Mr. Knowles, for anyone who's in the audience, I don't know if you asked for public comment or not.
no, you want me to?
Did you? Okay.
okay.
Yeah, I think you did.
I did. I'm sorry, I thought we were just tabling it, so it didn't matter. So I need to ask for public comment in reference to what thing we're tabling?
Go ahead.
Okay. Would you like to,
I'm on for the next one. Nope.
okay, you're next, okay.
Jump the gun.
Okay, you're not 6 and 7, right? 6 and 7 is gone.
Okay.
Okay, so we're closing public comment with that. You can make comments at the end if you like. Okay, so 6 and 7's been tabled. Number 8 on the agenda is, number 8, Chase Bank still on, Joe? Are you Chase Bank?
It is.
Okay, yeah, you got a beautiful facility there. Hopefully something opens there. You could sell a really high-end donut out of that building.
It's like you're all refreshed, Mike. Got all refreshed.
better. Good evening, Mike McGinnis here on behalf of Bensalem MZL, who is the owner of the subject parcel, which is in front of you for consideration this evening. I think council is aware, this is part of the Brookwood Shopping Center. My client owns the portion of the shopping center that's depicted in front of you this evening, which is substantially comprised of basically the vacant Kmart and then the out parcels, which were in front of you, I think, about a year ago to convert the Krispy Kreme to a Chase Bank. Chase Bank went through that process. Candidly, I'm not sure why at the time the land development was submitted, a subdivision wasn't submitted in tandem with it, but it was not. The Chase Bank was approved, and then we undertook this process to subdivide and go through minor subdivision to create the Chase Bank as its own out parcel. So the plan that's in front of you this evening basically just carves off about 3/4 of an acre parcel so that the Chase Bank will be its own parcel moving forward. We went to the zoning hearing board in the summer for one variance relating to parking proximity to a property line and secured the variance at that time. There is no land development that's proposed with this application. There is no modifications. There are no parking changes. This is just moving a line on a page to create an out parcel for the Chase Bank, which is becoming the industry standard for shopping centers. We received a review letter from TPD on May 9th, and then it was subsequently updated on June 30th. There are 0 waivers. There are almost no comments with this. There is one, I think a single saldo comment, which will comply and has been acknowledged as such. So the rare application I have, which merits, I think, no further conversation or request for waivers on our end. I'm certainly happy to have Chris Riggle with me to go through the plan if anybody needs further information. I will make the representation. We've worked with Ms. Corman, who owns the other half of the shopping center, to address some comments. For example, like putting on the plan that the REA agreement, the reciprocal easement agreement in the parking center, the shopping center still applies from a parking and access standpoint, which it certainly does, and both sides are in agreement with that. We added a notation on the plan to indicate that there's no parking modifications because that was a question that Ms. Corman had, and then we also added a little arrow in the Betta Street Road depicting parcel ownership on her behalf. Other than that, there's been no modifications, and have nothing further to add. We thank you for your consideration this evening.
Mr. Pizzo, is saldo an official legal term? Is that
An official legal term, no, but it is.
slang?
Subdivision and land development ordinance.
Okay. You learn something new every day. Okay, is there any questions from any of the council members in reference to this? We're looking forward to this being opened and possibly a supermarket behind it?
God willing.
Yeah. And it looks like you did a great job with the building. It looks great.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions for the applicant? Chase Bank. It's a big bank. Yeah. Okay, is there anybody, there's no question of council, is there anybody who wants to speak for or against this proposal, this minor subdivision? Seeing no one come forward, and no questions, does someone want to put a motion forward?
I will.
That's-
I'll put a motion forward to approve this lot line change for tax parcel 02043-305 at 1729 Street Road. Anything else I need to add?
Okay, anything else should be included, Mr. Pizzo?
Is this a
Minor.
final? Minor?
Preliminary and final.
A deed for the newly created lot should be submitted to the township engineer for its review and approval, as well as to my office, and that deed should be recorded contemporaneously with the plan of minor subdivision.
That's a minor, preliminary and minor.
Preliminary.
Final. Okay, so, Mr. Pizzo, you accepted his adjustments to your motion, and Mr. Polari seconded the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Okay. All right,
Thank you.
congratulations, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, number 9 on the agenda, consideration of a preliminary land development for Johnson Development Associates, Inc., 2900 State Road. Is anybody here for this?
You're asking that question for real?
Good evening. Mike McGinnis from Begley Carlin here on behalf of Johnson Development. I have Trip Bailey with me this evening as well. As the council president, Mr. Knowles noted, this is an application for preliminary approval, which is different than our normal submission for preliminary final approval. This is also typically the part of the presentation where I go through the whole background of who our client is and what they're seeking to do. But I think council is substantially familiar with that at this point. Johnson Development has been the equitable owner of this property for a couple of years. It's 2600 State Road, and we have had pending before the township, and I will state that we appreciate council's indulgence of the multiple continuances as this matter, as we've tried to work our way to a path forward here. But as you can see on the plan that's in front of you, what's been proposed is the construction of approximately a 252,000 square foot warehouse with associated green space and significant stormwater management improvements for this property. We appeared in front of council a couple months ago, the night that the ordinance was on the agenda, because at that time there was also consideration for a condemnation to facilitate the construction of Renaissance Boulevard. Renaissance Boulevard, as it's depicted on the official map, essentially bisects this property as well as a couple properties to the north between 2600 State Road and Street Road. And certainly, or obviously, we can't secure approval for the construction of a warehouse or any structure over road that's been, or land that's been condemned for a road. So we've sort of been in a chicken or the egg situation as we've tried to work out a solution that's premised upon relocating the road elsewhere on the property in order to make the plan that's in front of you this evening feasible. So to that end, and I guess I should state at the outset that the review letter that T&M actually provided many, many months ago has no waiver requests. So we have no variances, we have no waiver requests with our land development plan. So everything in the review letter and all of the review letters are will complies, but our suggestion or proposal to the township to move forward with this is hopefully to secure preliminary plan approval with the following conditions that we can volunteer, and certainly go back and forth with Mr. Pizzo on the phrasing of these conditions. But first of all, Johnson Development, as the applicant, will fund the engineering that's necessary for what our proposal will be for the relocation of Renaissance Boulevard. We stated at the council meeting a couple months ago, and we'll reiterate tonight, that Renaissance Boulevard is a benefit not only to the township, but it's a benefit to Johnson Development. It would be a benefit to any tenants who would be located in this building, and we think a benefit to other landowners along this stretch of State Road. And to that end, in addition to funding the engineering for the location of Renaissance Boulevard, we will also construct Renaissance Boulevard from this property north out to Street Road. So that would be another condition of preliminary plan approval that we would agree to this evening. And then finally, as a condition, certainly because we do not control all of the land between here and Street Road, we would agree, and again, we can come up with the verbiage of this, but to broker or foster a resolution regarding the acquisition of the land north of this property to facilitate the construction of the road. So put differently, if there is not a resolution where the land is provided to construct the road, then we haven't fulfilled our condition of preliminary plan approval and can't move forward. So the three things, in addition to the approval of our preliminary plan, that we're putting on the table are: one, engineering the road design; two, constructing the road, which we think will be a benefit out to Street Road; and then three, facilitating the resolution of the acquisition of the land over parcels that we do not control that would allow us to move forward. We think that the proposal of this building, and I don't know if we have, do you have the rendering here, Trip? What the building? Yeah, it is in keeping. We know there's been some questions, obviously, with the ordinance conversation about warehousing and the use on this area of the township, and we're mindful, and we certainly understand those concerns, but this is a multi-million dollar investment on my client's part. This property, this building is going to look beautiful. We've been very mindful with our design from a stormwater standpoint, from a green space standpoint. We want to be the company that makes Renaissance Boulevard, even if it's not in the exact same position, a reality for the township and for the residents who live here, so we can have truck traffic that runs from our property and other properties out to Street Road rather than on State Road. We want to be part of the solution on a number of fronts, and we think that the time and the investment that we've put forth illustrates our seriousness to being partners with the township. So we still have some hurdles that we need to work through, and again, that's why it's preliminary plan approval. That's why these conditions are in place, so that if things don't proceed in the way we're expecting, the township is not on the hook for an approval that they don't desire, but we think this is the best path forward this evening. So that's my introduction and preamble. Okay, and Tripp's here. Certainly, if anyone would like to hear from Tripp about his company and his interest in this property. So we thank you. You know, it's been a long time coming on our end. It's been a long time coming on the township's end, and we appreciate the dialogue and the effort to get us to this point.
We appreciate your cooperation with us, too, and the dialogue you two, Mr. Pizzo, and yourself, and Tripp, and your whole company has presented to Bensalem Township, and what you're willing to do with us, as well as us, hopefully, accommodating your facility also.
Thank you.
We really do.
And I wanted to, you probably might have said this already, but I also wanted to add, Mr. Pizzo, that we have to approve the whatever the proposed and new engineering is for Renaissance Boulevard as a council, or, you know.
Yeah, it would be a mutually acceptable
That's
road
correct.
design,
Right,
however we
right,
want to phrase
right.
that, correct?
Right, and then so you'll either negotiate or somehow get people to agree to obtain
That's correct.
the land that you need to complete the road.
That's right, yes.
Okay, we kind of went over this, you know, in details. Mr. Pizzo, do you have anything to add before there's any questions for you, or you want to just take questions in reference to?
No, consistent with what Mr. McGinnis has presented, obviously the township has, as Mr. McGinnis stated and agrees, the official map depicts Renaissance Boulevard crossing this property. The plans before you this evening for your consideration do not depict Renaissance Boulevard anywhere on the plans. They do, however, depict the proposed building being constructed on that building. So the appropriate action, if council were of a mind, would be to simply deny this plan because you can't build a building on top of a township road that's depicted on the official map. Consistent with everything that Mr. McGinnis has said, what the applicant is asking for, consistent with, so that it can move forward with its agreement of sale, is that you grant preliminary approval only this evening, and that the preliminary approval would contain the various conditions that will be included as part of the motion regarding the need to redesign and relocate Renaissance Boulevard from it where it's currently depicted on the township map, to include it on the land development plans for Johnson. So that's the first thing that'll have to happen. These plans will have to be re-engineered to depict that road. And then the applicant will, as part of the condition, be required to fund the acquisition of the additional right-of-way that is outside of the area that's currently shown on the township map, in order to help effectuate the relocation of Renaissance Boulevard. And they would be taking on that responsibility because relocating the road from where it's shown on the official map would otherwise have economic consequences to the township in terms of what property owners might or might not be entitled to, by virtue of the fact that, just as we're saying here, you can't build a building on top of a road. Where that road is depicted on the official map dictates to some extent what property owners can or can't do with their property. So in order to make that change, we're asking the property owner is agreeing that as a condition, they would be the ones responsible for the, excuse me, for the costs of acquisition of the different right-of-way, and the changed right-of-way, if you will, for Renaissance Boulevard. Again, keeping in mind that council did back in August of this year, you did authorize the administration to proceed with the condemnation of right-of-way, both on this property and on the adjacent property. The administration has held off on proceeding with that because there have been efforts to, and ongoing discussions with both the owners of this property and the adjacent JJGD property, who also has an application in for land development approval, to see if a mutually agreeable relocation of the road can be accomplished. To date, we have not been able to make such an agreement, and that should be noted as well. And that is part of the reason why, if council is of a mind to grant this approval this evening, it contains those conditions that it is wholly on this property owner or this applicant to come up with the new design, to incorporate it on the plan, to fund the right-of-way acquisition, and ultimately to construct the road.
Okay, do you have a question,
Yeah,
Mr. Larry?
Mr. Pizzo, I think that maybe you should draft this motion, because you and Mr. McGinnis have been talking back and forth to make sure that we get it right. Since council is pretty much on board, I think, with what you're looking to do, what the parties are looking to do to try and make this work, I think it would be better if we were to be able to get that in a legal type of thing, if we need to take a short recess, or if you can put that together for us so that we do it right. I would think it would be the right thing for us to do.
Sure. Depending on, if you want to take public comment, I've jotted down most of what Mike has said and incorporated it into a condition to be included in whatever motion one of you might make.
Okay, so you think you continue to work on that while we're doing public comment?
Can I raise a question?
Yeah.
This video doesn't hold what we're talking about here tonight legally? I'm just asking a question.
It is, the video would be a record of this evening's meeting. The minutes are always the official record, but the videotape and audio tape of this evening's meeting certainly would be the equivalent of a court report or transcript.
A legal document also. Okay, so we're going to reiterate that if we get to a point where we're making a motion, we're going to base it on Mr. Pizzo's laying out exactly what we're agreeing to as a preliminary approval. Okay, you have a question?
I do. Mr. Pizzo, with the preliminary, and if they are able to relocate the road, would this possibly, if there are new plans, they'll address any potential zoning variance issues?
Yes.
Just wanted to be sure that we weren't kind of going down, and I know you said everything will comply now,
Correct.
but I want to be sure that, you guys are still in good shape and,
If the revisions were to result in the need for a zoning variance, that would fall on the applicant.
We would have to
address.
procure it. Council wouldn't have the ability to grant us that relief
yes.
anyway. So
Yes,
if
I
for
know
some
that. I just want to be
reason,
sure that,
yeah, if for some reason between mutual meetings, the township desired a certain road design that sent us to the zoning hearing board, since we don't have a finalized road design agreement, I can't opine as to compliance,
just-
but we would have to procure that on our own, and if we didn't, the preliminary plan approval is null and void.
okay, thank you.
Okay, and then if we take public comment, if there's public comment, okay, so then you can get with Mr. Pizzo and make sure that you guys agree on the points that we would make part of a motion if we get to that point where we're making a
Happy
motion
to
to
do
vote.
that, yes.
Okay, is there someone that'd like to come up for public comment to comment for or against this preliminary approval of Johnson's? Okay, seeing no one come forward. Mr. Pizzo, you were closer to,
No, I think
got a
I've,
shorthand person over there.
well,
Yeah, we have to have a motion to what we're approving though, and Mr. Polari wanted it written out, what we're approving.
I just think it should be something we make sure that is legally
Binding?
Yeah, so
binding.
he thinks that-
That
And
uses
both
the right
parties
words.
have discussed it, and I think it's better we do it in the open right here instead of
so
going back and forth.
the condition of approval
Okay, go ahead.
for preliminary land development only would be that the applicant and/or the property owner shall amend and revise the plan so as to provide a 50-foot right-of-way. 50-foot is good? 50-foot right-of-way extending through the property from the northern property line to the southern property line to serve as the right-of-way for the road depicted on the official township map adopted by ordinances number 2015-10 and 2015-13, and commonly referred to as Renaissance Boulevard. That right-of-way will be at a location or locations as approved by the township in its sole discretion. Once a location has been proposed to and approved by the township, that proposal coming from the applicant will design and engineer Renaissance Boulevard from the subject property out to its intersection with Street Road, so that Renaissance Boulevard terminates in an intersection with Street Road at the location currently depicted on the aforementioned official map. The applicant and/or owner will be solely responsible for all costs of construction of Phase 1 of Renaissance Boulevard, which Phase 1 extends from the intersection of Renaissance Boulevard with Street Road and continuing south to the southern property line of the subject property, which is its common property line with Grassi Steel, and terminating on that property line at a location that either aligns with the existing depiction of Renaissance Boulevard on the Grassi Steel property or at such other location as may be approved by the township in its sole discretion. Upon completion of the construction of Renaissance Boulevard, the road and the right-of-way, to the extent not already dedicated to the township, will be dedicated to the township for $1. Finally, the comments by the township solicitor and the attorney for the applicant are integrated into and made a part of this motion, and to the extent that they are inconsistent with this motion shall prevail.
Okay, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, and just,
I think, Mr. Pizzo, the other condition that Mr. Kisselback is probably referencing is will facilitate the resolution to the acquisition of the necessary land between our property and Street Road.
You're correct.
Yeah.
So the applicant or owner will be solely responsible for the cost of acquisition of any right-of-way
He just did the course, said
necessary for the construction of Phase 1 of Renaissance Boulevard.
Okay, so that's added to the cost, so that's covered, Mr. Kisselback?
Yes.
Okay, and then, you know, we're gonna probably make a motion and vote on this, but I do wish you luck in getting this done, okay? Because I thought we were close to having a deal, actually, and I'm a little disappointed that we're even this far, but it is what it is, people do what they do. But,
And it should go without saying, but we'll say it, that the revised plan will actually, obviously be reviewed by the township engineer, the township traffic engineer, and the applicant will comply with any of the comments that are included in that review.
Yes?
okay, you're good with that?
And then it comes back to council for final approval.
Correct.
Yep.
Yes.
If we can get that far. Okay, so does someone want to make a motion for the preliminary land development based on the added amendments by Mr. Pizzo, agreed to by the attorney for Johnson's Development Associates?
So moved.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Okay, good luck.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Again, sincerely appreciate the township's efforts.
Mr. President, could I say something?
Yeah.
I just want to say, trip, it's been a trip. And I've been dead serious. Your cooperation and what you meant to the township means an awful lot, I know, to this council and myself and Bensalem. You handled it professionally. You worked with us every way you could, and we really appreciate that. So I want to thank you for that.
And if we should, one other item which I know has been discussed, but just to place on the record, upon the completion of the construction, because this is important to what we're doing here, upon completion of the construction of Renaissance Boulevard, there will be no truck access from this property onto State Road.
Right.
That's right. Trucks would be directed to utilize Renaissance Boulevard,
Right,
correct?
it'd be only like we'll work it out, whether it's an emergency entrance or
Yes.
something like that.
And so the plan should be amended to reflect that.
Right.
Understood.
Okay?
Thank you very much. Have a
All right,
great
thank
evening.
you.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. Johnson's. Should we save this? This is preliminary.
No, because we have to get another one for the final, so it's-
Okay. Okay, number 10 on the agenda is public comment. Is there anybody that has any other public comment in reference to any other agenda item? Seeing no one come forward, public comment is closed. We have other business. Deb, do you have any business? We're awful quiet tonight, actually. Okay, Mr. Pizzo, you don't have any other business, do you?
I do not.
Okay. Phil, do you have anything you need to add?
No, sir.
Okay. Stacy, do you, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, do you have anything you would like to add? Yeah, sorry. That's what I heard. It's a rumor. It's a rumor.
When is it? 10th?
December 10th.
Yeah. There's a lot of things we're going to talk about, the Christmas tree lighting coming up December 10th, but we'll be here next week, so we'll be able to wish everybody Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, all that. So we'll be here for our budget meeting next Monday night.
Yeah, the 5th.
Look forward to that.
Okay, thank you. Stacy, Ms. Champion, do you have anything else?
Yes, hopefully everybody had a great Thanksgiving holiday, good weekend. Tomorrow's Giving Tuesday, so if you have a favorite charity to donate to, if you're able to, or volunteer your time. You can always use volunteers in many different things. Also, next Tuesday, I know we're here on Monday, but for people to put on their calendars now for next Tuesday, the police department is having a fraud investigators come out to speak to people. So if you want to come out and understand some more about security management and different things for fraud as related to you personally, you'll be here in council chambers next Tuesday at 7 o'clock.
And you're supposed to register for that, I think.
And you're supposed to, yes. Please email. It's on their Facebook page, social media, or reach out to the police department to register.
And is it Penn Community Bank sponsoring that too?
I'm not that sure, to be honest.
Yeah, I think they are.
Yes, it is Penn
Yep.
Community Bank.
Yep, so you can register it either with the township or Penn Community Bank. Okay, Mr. Polari, do you have anything you would like to add?
I can't speak highly of my Flyers right now, so I'm waiting for them to hopefully get their act together, get their players back. Other than that,
Some of my friends on Facebook are just like kind of losing it. It's sad. Mr. Kisselback, do you have anything to add?
I do, thank you. Well, first of all, I'd like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, which was a few days ago. My family was up and down. Derek and his family from Fort Drum, being an Army guy. His 4 boys were living at my house for that time, and Eddie and Stacy came up from Florida, and they're up here because their daughter is about to give birth to a baby girl any minute, I would say. She's in the hospital as we speak,
You'll be a
so that's an
great-grandpa?
exciting time, so I will
It's
be
not
a
the
great-grandfather. Exactly.
exciting.
So that's pretty exciting for our Thanksgiving, moving into, and this is almost as exciting, to tell you the truth, passing this ordinance. But that being said, as the mayor just said a moment ago, the holidays are coming up, and we have a meeting, so I wish everyone a happy Hanukkah and a Merry Christmas, and whatever you participate in and involve your family in, we'll be doing that in a moment too. So thank you very much, and I am finished at that.
Okay. And as the mayor mentioned, our next meeting is our budget meeting, December 5th is our budget meeting. And then the tree lighting, which the township building is beautiful already out front. So the tree lighting is going to be really nice, and it's the 10th, right, Deb, is that correct? At 5 o'clock, but we'll have the budget meeting since then, but, you know, put it on your plans for the tree lighting event. That's a really, really nice event for family and kids.
Tell me Saturday.
So
Saturday, the 10th.
Saturday the 10th, 5 o'clock. Okay? And December the 5th is our budget meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
So moved, okay. So second, we're adjourned. What's the matter? The 10th is the Saturday.